And welcome back to Punchline, here with Isaac Rutto, former chair of the Council of Governors, possibly eyeing the Bomet gubernatorial seat in 2022?
I don't know.
He doesn't know. We'll see if he knows at the end of the program. Let's talk a little bit about the war on corruption and start with the recent developments in the cancellation of the Kimorer Dam on various accounts by President Kenyatta. What did you make of that move?
When I looked at the document that he used, I have had an opportunity to look at the executive summary. And I would agree with him that probably that is the best decision that an executive can do. Because there is an indication in that report that I think it's the Arol Dam that has a crack and definitely it cannot sustain water. Would
the
you
Kimorer
go ahead? Yeah, no. I
has
think
a fault line? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there is one that has a fault line.
Yes, Kimorer,
and if there is
yes.
a fault line on a dam, how would you go ahead to construct a dam on it? You are creating even more problems, and there will be no water anyway because of that fault line.
How was this approved, do you think, then, in the beginning?
I think that is why there are lots of questions about it. And you see, if also a project is priced wildly, how would a president say, go ahead? I don't think he would be making a reasonable decision.
And yet he did. And up until the noise around it regarding alleged corruption, this was a project that pretty much was still going to stay on course with a fault line being overpriced.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, this is a situation where now the president has been personally given the executive report or by experts after checking what the whole situation is like, and you've been given that report. You are supposed to make a reasonable decision under the circumstances, and notwithstanding the problems that may have occurred before or other mistakes before. You cannot continue to perpetuate a problem.
Does it require censure for whoever proposed sanction?
Yes, I think beyond that, after doing that, he puts a stop. I don't think he should stop there. He should get down to the bottom of this problem. Who are the engineers who approved this thing? How did they develop it knowing there was a fault line in that particular dam? And then this excessive overpricing, how did it happen under his watch? Yeah. Ordinarily, if this was a parliamentary system of government, I think whoever was in charge of the executive would have been censored in parliament. Assuming that parliament is a parliament similar to the ones that we know all over the world.
The deputy president defended viciously these two dams, but that was particularly on the allegations of corruption. Now with this kind of document emanating from the presidency, what does that mean? What does that say?
Well, I really don't think the deputy president could have been arguing with the technical information available. The last time I heard about his argument was that only 7 billion was lost and not 21. Within a short while, it was clearly shown that it was more than the 7 billion he was talking about. And I think he kept quiet after that. And I don't think to be fair, I have not seen him arguing about the technical questions in this report. And if he would have to challenge the technical issues in that report, then he would have to tell us
But we have seen other leaders from the region challenge it, particularly Senator Murkomen, who criticized the makeup of the technical committee that arrived at this conclusion, saying they are from one region. And he said, quote, the people of Elgeyo Marakwet have been denied their right and discriminated against. Other leaders have joined in that kind of condemnation of this move. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think I'm not so sure whether he has looked at the report himself. I'm not sure whether Murkomen, I think it was just off the cuff. I think he was simply shooting from the hip. That is the ordinary thing he would want. He was addressing the gallery, as we would say in parliament, that he was speaking to the gallery, not really looking at the facts. What would Murkomen say if there is a fault line? And it is a material where engineers come from. The point here is, if you are an engineer or you are a doctor and you have been told to do a postmortem or you have been told to do surgery, you would basically do it as a doctor, not as somebody from the Himalayas or somebody from Elgeyo Marakwet. They are all the same. If you
By Himalayas, do you mean Mount Kenya? Really? Okay.
No.
But your point is made. You know, but having said that, even with that decision made, billions have been paid out already.
Yes.
How does the taxpayer get back their money?
That is now the million-dollar questions on the table of President Uhuru.
No recommendations for him?
No, it is on his table. He has got to show us the way forward.
That's his headache.
He has to.
Okay.
He has to get out of that quagmire. He has to explain to us where the money is. It is his government. And you see, ordinarily now, if this was a parliamentary government once again, the head of the executive would have been made to account. And if he can't account, he should be shown the door.
So where does the accountability, though, in this system work? Is it the cabinet secretaries? Where would you draw the line in terms of following responsibility?
The buck stops somewhere.
With the president?
At the door of the chief executive. It would stop at the door of the prime minister if this was a parliamentary government.
So now it stops at the door of the president?
I believe this should stop at his door.
And so,
but now, once he has taken action, like he has done, he has already arraigned the minister of, he has already indicted the minister of Treasury and the other functionaries, and I think he's taking some action. So if you were to call him, you know, you would be asking him, what have you done? And saying there is something going on already.
Right.
Yeah. So the president has already taken action.
Coupled with what has been going on with Aurora and Kimoreru, you know, of course, that came up with on the back of many, many headlines alleging corruption widespread within this administration. In your view, is there a selective war on corruption that targets specifically leaders from your region?
I have not fallen into that argument. I think the war on corruption should be allowed to continue because we must bring sanity to this republic. I have no problem with the investigations being done left, right, and center. And we can't just keep saying, we do not monopolize corrupt people. There are so many corrupt people all over the place. They are not just located in Rift Valley. No, and the people who have been actually taken to court are from all over the republic. It happens that quite a number because are either Kikuyu or Kalenjin. If I can be as
frank
as that.
Right.
You see, but you see, the division of government was between TNA and URP. And URP was heavily Kalenjin, TNA was heavily Kikuyu. If the two shared offices and corruption occurred in there, all of them will just be fried. Having
said that, the Deputy President's allies have said that the war on corruption is specifically targeted at stopping him or his allies in his quest for 2022. Do you see that connection?
I don't see any connection with that.
Do you believe, as some in your NASA alliance have claimed, that the Deputy President is corrupt?
I don't know about that. I would be making wild allegations. I would probably be accused of libel.
Do you believe that the DPP has been carrying out his work independently? I
have seen the DCI and the DPP becoming quite enthusiastic about their work. And I think, and having passion to do something about the problem. I think that is commendable for such officers to do their work well. And I thought that should be replicated across the hierarchy of government, that everyone who is given a job should have a passion for it. And I think if Kinoti was given the job and he is passionate about doing it, I think he should be allowed to do it. Otherwise, why would you want a DCI who does not do any investigations or who is scared of doing the job? Why would you have a DPP who is also either scared or confused or actually gets carried away by the power and the glory of the office and decides to go wild?
But there are those who see the political connection, and I want to quote again Senator Murkomen. At the time that the Aurora and Kimorera arrests were being made, the DPP came to the media, had a very long statement that he issued. At the conclusion of it, he talked about the government being on alert regarding anyone who would want to cause chaos out of the impending arrests. And the senator who is legally representing some of these people said, you know, that in itself is a highly political statement. He has also in separate quarters talked about the DCI being on a witch hunt. Are you saying that there does not appear to you to be some kind of political connection to the arrests that are being made, whether it is political goodwill or political whatever?
Yeah, you see, there is a pattern that has been adopted by this government in which every activity they intend to do seems to be preceded by some statements of intent.
Right. Yeah, the government keeps announcing what it wants to do.
Keeps announcing what they want to do. And I would ordinarily also call it probably either preparing the public or propaganda from whichever side you think. For example, when I look at what they are saying about the Mau, they have convinced all Kenyans that these people are living in the forest. And that actually the schools are purportedly in the forest, that these are actually people who simply went in there and started cutting down the trees. And that is the information they are putting forth. And the press has bought it, and it's splashing it all over the place. So the real information tends to get clouded. But
so the government should just keep quiet and work?
This is a fault of government. No, you can't do that. You know, the other option is government not to say anything. If government doesn't say anything, then the people could easily have an uprising. Because what are the reasons? Then the only reasons that will be available is the one from Murkomen. That usually we are actually being witch hunted.
Right.
So it is imperative on any government to give information to the people prior to taking any drastic action. I hold no brief for the DPP, but I bet if Murkomen was the president today, he would release the same information prior to doing anything he wants to do. So there is nothing absolutely wrong with the DPP preparing Kenyans that, look, I have this, and it is quite heavy, but I'm prepared to proceed. The other agencies take care and take charge of your area.
You've talked about favoring our parliamentary system as we talk about the Constitution now. Do you believe that it is time to amend the Constitution now?
I believed it 5 years ago. I wanted it done. All what is being debated on now is what I was pushing under Chama Mashinani.
No time like the present.
Yeah?
No time like the present. There's no time like the present.
Yes, there is no time like now. You know, we should do it.
Yeah.
Like today.
So you've talked about Chama Mashinani, and governors have come up with the ugatuzi proposals, and part of what they're proposing there is a reserve of 45% of the previous year's revenues for counties. That is something you would support.
Yes.
What do you think of the ugatuzi proposals in general?
Ugatuzi proposals are quite up. I'm quite satisfied with it, and I instantly support the ugatuzi amendments to the Constitution.
That's because you want to become a Bomet governor?
Not necessarily. I believe in devolution. Not necessarily. I have not declared any position right now. But the point here is, what I believed in last time, I still believe in the same. It does not matter who the governor is. In fact, I can even agree that all the governors are incompetent, and that the next batch of governors are also going to be incompetent. But now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't devolve. We should devolve, and let's take the syllabus of the children in secondary schools and in primary. Let them come and become better governors than us. So the point here is we must do devolution, but we must do parliamentary system of government.
All in all, people feel, or I shouldn't say people, but some of the first views around this has been that this will make government that much more expensive, and we're dealing already with a wage bill which is unsustainable. So how does the pesa then go mashinani if you're spending all of it in creating new positions, giving perks? What is
the position of a prime minister? What is the salary difference between him and that of Matiang'i, for example? Hardly 200,000 or 100,000.
But the perks compared for an MP and the MCAs?
But the MPs remain the same. We are not talking about the same salary. I think they are talking about fair treatment in the similar manner. Yeah, like giving them a loan to buy a house, we're already giving them. So even that one does not carry any serious financial implication, the one we're talking about, the MPs, MCA. But probably we are saying that there should be a ward development fund. That's money going to the people. That's not money going to the MCA. The MCAs are in existence. The MPs are in existence. In fact, even the people who you would call prime minister, deputy prime ministers, actually already exist. So where is the problem? Accept the definition in office and specific functions. I'm saying the same cabinet.
And that will cost money to run these offices.
18 cabinet ministers. One of them is a prime minister, another one is a deputy, another one is another deputy, the other one is minister for health. A deputy prime minister, for example, would have on a sector, for example, things like infrastructure, another one is in social services. Where is the problem?
So it does not necessarily mean more numbers, it might be redefining roles.
Nothing.
But having said that, you know, you've advocated for Pesa Mashinani, it seems you agree with 45% specifically.
Yes. Yes.
But still with our ballooning wage bill. So where does reduction come in for us to be able to give more Pesa Mashinani?
The wage bill scare is, in my view, is not real. It is not real. It's possible to maintain a wage bill with the same structure. These things just a red herring. We are talking about things that are neither here nor there. For example, you are not going to have a government that has no employee. It must have employees.
But must it have all these employees?
But there will be no new changes. There will be no new changes in terms of structure. Which employees will increase because you have a prime minister? Which one will increase? There is no new structure.
Do you believe we spent too much on recurrent expenditure?
You see, we need to create more wealth. We need to grow the cake. But you cannot declare this country as a country that embraces unemployment. I want to tell you something that is going to be, that is a crisis even as we speak right now. And it's going to be a big issue for 2022. Unemployment amongst the youth is massive. You will not be talking about reducing the wage bill without even considering what to do with the youths that are all over the place. So a government is a social institution. It is not a business. It's a social institution. So you see, some of these arguments should be the key issues towards an election. Whoever wants to be president should be telling us now how he intends to run government. That is basically that it should be. Not tribes. Not that he's going to get a combination of 3 or 4 or 5 tribes so that they go to State House. He should be telling us how is he going to manage the economy to grow so that he can employ vijana. There are so many of them who are out of university now and they have no jobs. And some parents, in fact, if I were to show even my phone, they keep calling me. Some of them send me messages. Another one the other day sent me a message telling me that I don't know sijui nilikosea Mwenyezi Mungu ama ni nani. I'm writing to you, I have got 5 graduates. None of them has been employed, and the oldest one is 38 years old, up to 24.
And I hear and I sympathize with that. It's everywhere. Those views are, you know, those concerns, that struggle is everywhere across the country. But you're saying the solution to Punguza is not really to Punguza Mizigo, it is to grow the national cake. But you talked about supporting some of the Punguza Mizigo proposals. Which ones do you support?
No, the ones in Punguza Mizigo was only the question of 45% and a few others.
Okay.
But I don't support Punguza Mizigo the moment they start talking about reversing the gains of women. Okay. When they start reducing representation. You may not like, democracy is an expensive business. But if you want to try a better, you try military one and see. It is a disaster. Even if the current form of government is expensive, it is okay. And you are not going to take away the rights of women through reducing nomination slots simply on that very argument. Some people make ridiculous arguments as if women are not us. Right. We are parents, and I have daughters and sons, right. and you can't tell me any one of my children is less than the other one.
True. And because you have been the chair of the Council of Governors, when you see what has been happening lately, although the Division of Revenue impasse has now been resolved, money has been sent to counties, but you know all the drama that went around it. And during your time, not only did you have challenges with the disbursement of funds, but you also talked about national government imposing things on you, particularly the medical equipment situation, but you eventually had to cave in through that. Do you feel the attitude of government towards devolution has changed, and for better or worse?
It has actually systematically grown worse. And it was epitomized by what they did just 2 months ago, that they really don't care about what goes to the counties. They are interested in mega projects that actually yield nothing. They were talking about dams giving us water to the counties when we were telling them water reticulation is a function of the counties, just like electricity reticulation is actually a function of the counties. I kept telling them that, look, healthcare is 90% a county government function, but they retain 90% of the money, give us 90% of the job, give us 10%
They retain 90% of the money.
Yes, and give us 90% of the jobs. And then they blame us for doing nothing. And then the money they have, they don't know what to do, so they go leasing equipment that are completely useless.
You think it's been useless? It's a failed
A lot
scheme.
of them are, you would have done much better with the procurement of the same. We did a survey that time. We even did a quotation from Germany, and we found the equipment they were telling us to hire at the cost of 700 million was actually costing 280 million in
so
Germany.
Highly inflated
if you
as
were
well.
to buy. It would have costed each county 287 million. And some of them were not a priority then, because you see, some equipment requires highly purified water. But we have no such water in the county, and you are telling me to install it. Most of them, a large number of them, are in cartons up to now.
Why do you think government has then been seen to, as you are saying, have difficulties with devolution? For instance, Senator Murkomen was on the program the other day, and he said, government needs to adjust its its attitude, that we're not there with begging bowls. It is for them. We're not here to beg for the money. The money doesn't come from them. They are equally being given money by the Houses of Parliament. So is it a concern, a mistrust between the two institutions? And how is that helped when Ugatuzi, for instance, is proposing that even something like security should be devolved?
You see, that is precisely what I was saying 5 years ago, that look, we need to have a constitutional provision on the percentages. That it should be clear that it is 40% or 35% or 45% that will go to the counties on the basis of money collected by the national collecting agency, that is KRA or whatever, the ordinary revenues of last year. We are not talking about the budget now, which is an estimate. It is just neither here nor there.
Yes.
The real thing is what we did last year. How much did we collect? If we collected a trillion shillings, then give counties 40% of that. So that is, it does not matter whether your budget is 3 trillion. The point is you actually collected 1 trillion last year. So give counties 400. That is the way, that is what we are saying. So that it is not even a question of debate in Parliament or the Senate. It should be a matter of fact that upon, as they prepare the budget, it is given that 35% of whatever was the last year's collections immediately goes to the counties, and that it is not subject to change, so that counties pass a budget.
But what
that
is the problem? Mistrust?
No, we don't need mistrust. Let's put it as a constitutional provision.
Do you see a provision
so
like
that you don't care?
Through?
Why not? It should.
Including one that talks about devolving security?
Why not?
Okay.
I want to tell you, America is highly devolved on security, and you don't even have fences in the estates. And I wish we had enough time. I would even refer you to what the youth was saying in Garissa when Al-Shabaab actually invaded their university.
Right, let's conclude with this. You've advocated passionately for a parliamentary system, and we've seen parliamentary systems all over the world having a lot of trouble. Israel, the UK. What problem does a parliamentary system solve for Kenyans?
A parliamentary system of government has fixed election timetable. It remains 5 years. The only person we can change midway is the Prime Minister and his executive. And that can be done by a party caucus or a parliament itself. So there is basically no elections. The parliament will meet and bring in a new coalition that parties have agreed on. That, look, this is our prime minister for the remaining period. And the elections will be done in the next, as due. And then the previous, like now, all these scandals would have costed a government its job.
Yeah.
And then they will be more careful now. You will see an end to corruption. You will see an end to all these things. And you will see better representation.
Because the censuring can be done immediately.
Censuring will be done in parliament,
right.
and there can be instant
justice
there. Not waiting for DCI and DPP and then the entire judicial system.
Going to a rogue parliament which can be bought for as much as 2,000 shillings allegedly?
No, parliament will become mature when you stop imposing MPs on people. You remember
Why
one
don't you
time,
just address the person you want to address with that statement?
One time, I think, was it, I think ODM was saying 70% of the MPs, I don't know who it was actually, were clueless. They didn't know what was going on. Very few of them actually participate in debate. Some of them finished 5 years without talking. So what on earth are they doing in that parliament?
They were imposed.
Yeah.
I'll allow you your 2 minutes of your punchline.
Well, I think for constitutional changes, time is now. And they were saying it in Kiswahili, a different way. But it means just that, that we must make these changes now. And we must forget about tribalism in this country. Let's go down to issues. What do we want? We want a peaceful environment. We want our economy to grow. And it does not matter. There are as many poor people in Central Province as there are in Luo Land. Recently, about 2 years ago, I had some NGO was actually busy removing jikas from residents of people living around Kiambu.
Right.
So you can't blame the people of Kiambu for being in government for so long. They are not in government. Those ones who have jikas have no representation in government. The important thing is to develop the economy and get everybody to enjoy his life within where he lives. And let's forget about this tribal nonsense.
And that has been Punchline. Thank you so much for watching another episode next Sunday. But for me, good night. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Some people say...